Mhm. Who started the recording? It must be the CR, you know? Right. I hope you remember in the last lesson we studied a couple of topics, and please keep yourself mute. I'm getting an echo like sound. Please keep yourself mute, right? If you have to ask any question, only then unmute yourself. Right. So here we go. The first thing that we studied was the formula for future value, or a generic formula for future value. And what was that? Can someone tell me how future value is calculated? The generic formula was principal amount plus the amount of interest that you get. I hope you remember that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We do.
So then we actually uh, further explored this idea, and we tried to calculate future value using simple interest, right? And what was the formula for that? Can someone tell me? Future value using simple interest. Can someone tell me?
Sir, it's basically principal value into
Hmm.
1 plus R times N,
R.
where
Very right. Very right. Okay. So this was future value using simple interest, right? CR, are you there? CR, are you there? My efficient CR. Ah, he was here.
I think he's sleeping right now.
Okay. Right. And then we started future value using compound interest, and in that case it was principal amount into 1 plus what?
1 plus
Uh,
R whole power N.
Whole the power n, right? And this was to calculate like calculate future value using compound interest, but this required a lot of manual calculations. I hope you remember that. And what then we did, or we replaced this second term, that is 1 plus r raised to the power n. We replaced this thing with another factor, and we said that it's called as future value interest factor. I hope you remember that too.
जी सर.
Okay, and from where do we get the value of future value interest factor?
सर वो एक टेबल है वहाँ से.
Exactly,
टेबल.
exact. Very right, sir. Very right. So, so these were the formula that we studied in the last class, and in that we saw what is how to calculate future value in journal, how to calculate future value using simple interest, how to calculate future value using compound interest, and how to calculate future value using compound interest, but using a future value interest factor table. Correct, Ji? So now
जी सर.
I'm going back to the screen, and here, this was the last slide probably that we studied, if I'm not wrong. This one, correct? So I'll just have a quick, revision of this example. Please keep yourself mute. Right. So in this question, we were required to calculate the future value of this amount, that is $1,000 deposit compounded at 10%. This is interest rate, and number of years were 3. So using future value interest factor table, the basic formula was future value is equal to principal amount into future value interest factor table for a particular I and for a particular N. And in our case, interest or I is 10% and number of years N is 3. So what would we do? We'll go and check this future value interest factor table, and we'll try to locate 10% here, and then we'll go to number of periods, that is n. In our case, it's 3. And then we'll try to figure out that what is the value of future value interest factor at 10% with number of years equals to 3, right? And then it was 1.3310. We just put that value, plugged that value here, and multiplied it with the principal amount. And this way we calculated the future value interest factor, future value at 10% in 3 years. Is it clear to everyone?
जी सर.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, right. So now how to calculate present value? We have calculated the future value already, and the formula for future value was future value is equal to, did we cover this part or no? I guess no. किसी
Yeah,
को याद है?
we did just future value.
Okay, right, right.
ये
So
नहीं
we know the future value, the formula for future value was 1 plus r raised to the power n, right? So now, can we calculate the present value, which is actually the principal amount here? Can we calculate present value from
Yes,
this
sir.
formula, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
it's
Yes, sir.
like basic mathematics. We'll just, shift this
1 plus
term
R
here
है.
on the other side. Yeah. So it would become principal amount or the present value is equal to what? Future value divided by
1 plus R
1
है.
plus r raised to the power n, right? So I'm just erasing this magical handwriting here because it's still difficult for me to write with the mouse. So I'm just erasing it. I rely on this. Okay, so rearranging the equation that or the formula that we studied for future value, and it was future value is equal to present value or the principal amount into 1 plus I raised to the power n. So what I'll do, I'll just shift this term, which is 1 plus I raised to the power n on the other side, and the formula for future value would, the present value would become present value is equal to future value divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n. So this derivation is quite simpler, easier than what we did for finding the future value, right, in the last class. So this is very simple. Now, can I write this term in another way? And that is present value.
Sir, I think you got muted.
To play. Please, please avoid your unnecessary movements on the mobile, right? Can you hear me now? Can
Yes,
you
sir.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
जी सर.
So please don't touch your mobiles if you're using a mobile screen to attend the lesson. And if you are intentionally muting me, trust me, I'm going to mute you all. Okay. Now, this was the formula that I was showing you. Let me write it here. Future value is equal to, I'm sorry, it's very difficult to write with the mouse. Present value multiplied by 1 plus I raised to the power n. This was the basic formula that we studied. And from this, we tried to drive the formula for present value, correct? And we said that, okay, present value, I'm sorry for this bad handwriting.
So just a suggestion.
No
Sorry?
problem, sir.
Thank you,
Just a
sir. See ya.
suggestion. If you open a Word document in
Yes, I'm
tab,
here.
then it will
Actually, then I'll have to keep switching all the time among multiple
alt tab.
screens. Right, yeah, all
Alt
tab,
tab.
but this is, sir, MS
I think, sir,
Teams.
it's better to write here.
Oh, that's difficult for me, actually. Right, I'll try to add the text
Sir,
here. Okay, there are just 2 or 3 things that I want to write, then I'll move on to slides. Like present value is equal to, okay, present value is equal to future value divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n. Any doubts about this?
No, sir.
Anyone? No. Okay. So we can write this in the same like equation in this form too. Present value is equal to future value multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n. Now, is it clear? Can we write it like that?
Yes, sir.
And there's no difference between these two? Why I'm in like emphasizing on this, because people who haven't touched mathematics for last maybe 4 or 5 years, they might have forgotten it, or they sometimes, they feel confused about it, that how did this come? Is this clear? These two terms means the same, correct? Shall I
Yes.
move forward? Right.
Sir, please.
Yes, sir. Shall I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Right. So now here, this the term that is 1 plus I, 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n, this term is called as present value interest factor. This term, present value interest factor, right? In
Yes,
case
sir.
of future value, the term 1 plus I raised to the power n, this was termed, or this was called as what? Future value interest factor, right? I hope you remember that. But
Yes, sir.
in case of present value calculation, the term 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n, that is called as present value interest factor. Any doubts about this?
No doubts.
No doubts, right? So now I'm going back to the screen, and let's have a look on this. So this was the basic formula for future value calculation. And we only switched this term, that is 1 plus I raised to the power n, on the other side of the equation, and we got the formula of present value, and that was present value is equal to future value divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n. Then we moved on, and we actually, wrote the same equation in another form or in another way, and in that we said that present value is equal to future value multiplied by 1 divided by I raised to the power n. And I said that this term 1 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n is called as present value interest factor. This is what we have studied now. I hope it is clear. So just like future value interest factor table, we also have one table for present value interest factor, right? But the both the tables have a different trend. If you see, in case of future value interest factor that we studied earlier, with increasing rate, interest rate, the value used to increase. But here, in case of present value interest factor, if you see, the value is continuously dropping if we move from a lower percentage, that is, let's say 1%, to a higher percentage on the right side. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
For 5%, it's 0.95. For
Yes.
6%, it is 0.94. For 7%, it is 0.93. So it is reducing continuously. And in case of future value interest factor, this value was increasing with the increasing percentage. Similarly, if you see by number of years, again, the same trend can be observed that for 1 year, it's 0.99, and for 2 years, or for 2 time periods, it's 0.98 and then 0.97. So it's continuously dropping. But in case of present value, oh sorry, in case of future value interest factor, the value used to increase. So what's the reason for that? Can someone tell me?
So basically, the present value interest factor is the inverse of future value interest factor. That's why it's decreasing.
It's decreasing, right? So actually, if you see, we used we try to understand the concept of future value and present value with an example that I taught you in the class. Let's say you are investing 10,000 here on year zero, and then let's say there's an interest rate of 10% here, and the number of years are 1, 2, and 3. So what would happen? This amount would be increased. Let's say if it is simple interest, in that case, it would be 1,000 added to you for first year, then 1,000 added here for the second year, and another 1,000 added here for the third year, right? In case of simple interest, obviously. So this way, you'll get 13,000 at the end of the year, at the end of the third year, in which 10,000 would be your original amount, and then you obtained 3 additional thousands here as an interest. Is it clear? Is it correct? I hope you are with me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
but if I add one more year, obviously my future value would increase by another 1,000, right? So that means with every increasing year, my future value would keep increasing, right? So when n increases, obviously the future value also increases, correct? Now, if I increase the percentage, let's say I make it 20% rather than 10%, so this amount would not be 1,000 anymore. Actually, it would be to 2,000, correct? This
Yes, sir.
amount would be 2,000 every
Yes.
year. And then by the
Yes,
end
sir.
of, let's say, fourth year, I would not be getting 14,000. In fact, I would be getting how much? 18,000, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So you see, with increasing number of years or with increase in percentage, in both the cases, as n increases or as the percentage or interest rate increases, in both case, the future value or the future value interest factor, it increases. But in case of, if you see, if you remember, in case of present value calculations, we discussed this concept that let's say if you have an amount of 100 rupee here or $100 or 100 million something here in let's say this is about 4 years from now, and then and the discount rate here, the interest rate used to be called as discount rate and not the interest rate, right? Casually speaking, yes, that's fine. Casually speaking, we would say at what interest rate, that's fine. But actually here we call it as discount rate. And why discount rate? Because it is discounting. My amount is being discounted. It is being reduced, right? So in 1 year, this amount would be reduced to 90 if the interest rate is 10%, correct? In next year, it
Yes,
would
sir.
be further reduced, and it would be 10% of 90, and that means, let's say, how much? 81,
Yes, sir.
and so on. But if I increase this discount rate, so here the percentage is 20%. In this case, what would happen? Within a 1 year, within a 1 year, the amount would be reduced from 100 to 80, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So in case of present value calculation, if you see, with the number of with the increase in percentage, the amount of present value is reducing because now we are having larger reductions. Previously, it was a reduction of 10%. So in 1 year, our 100 rupees was or 100 million was reduced to 90 million. But in case of 20%, now we will have bigger reductions. So that means within 1 year, this 100 rupees was reduced to 80, correct?
Yes,
So
sir.
Correct, sir.
that's why we are observing an exactly opposite trend what we saw in case of uh, the future value in trust factor table, and now we are looking a different trend here in case of present value in trust factor. So that was all about the future, the present value in trust factor table. Now let's try to solve an example here. Calculate the present value of a sum of how much? 1331, right? This is the future value that is expected to be received after 3 years from now, discounted at a rate of 10% annually. So now here my number of years is 3, and the discount rate is 10%, and the future value is 1331. So this is the future value, and I want to see how it is reduced to a present value that is like 3 years from now, we are coming back to the present value. So the formula for future value, oh sorry, the present value is future value. In our case, it is what? 1331, right? Divided by 1 plus I
1331.
raised to the power, yeah, divided by 1 plus I raised to the power n. And here it is 1331 divided by 1 plus I, that is 0.1 raised to the power 3, and then 1331, and this is your present value. Correct? So $1,331 would be reduced to $1,000 when we will come back or move back from third year to present time, right? So in other words, 1,000 of today might be equal to 1,331. Now this term is subjective, like whatever I said now, that 1000 of today is equal to 1331. I'll try to explain this concept later, maybe in when we'll be studying IRR or when we'll be concluding all the project selection methods. That sometimes when we say that, okay, or when we do a calculation of a future value and we get one present value here, sometimes according to our assessment, this is the case that 1000 of today would be equal to 1331 of, let's say, 3 years from now. But sometimes it doesn't mean this, what I'm saying, right? So, but uh, and we'll discuss this thing during the face-to-face class session. I don't think that it's appropriate to discuss here in the live session because I'm not sure how many of you are awake here. Okay, so now this is the calculation using the formula, but you see here we'll have to, do these calculations ourselves, and this will take a lot of time. So it's appropriate, it's good for us if we have or if we get a present value interest factor table, and we simply calculate or pick that present value interest factor from the table and multiply it with the future value here. So now in this case, we want to see the present value. This is the same example, present value of 1331 at a 10% discount rate with number of years 3. Is there any confusion about this?
No, sir.
So no. So from where did
No, sir.
I get this value? Can someone tell me?
So this is from another table.
From the table, right? So from present value in trust factor table,
From
I
the table.
went, yeah, I went to 10%, and here I checked n
And
number
then
of 3,
the third
right?
year.
Right, third year, and this is the intersection point. This is the crossroad point where we are getting a value of 0.7513 as present value in trust factor. And now I can simply multiply it by future value, and my present value would be 99.99, which is approximately equal to what 1,000 that we calculated manually on the last slide, right? Here,
Yes, sir.
this one. Okay, so with this, we have covered, I guess, all the basic concepts. Now let's have one more. I guess there's one more example here. Now, is the present? No, this is not example. This is just a concept. Is the present value of this to be received 3 years from now with an expected interest rate of 10% more or less than 300,000? Can someone tell me?
It would be less than 300,000.
It would be less than 300. Well done,
Sir,
sir. So you
lesser
name
than 300.
lesser than. That means what I'm saying or what I'm asking that if
Le-
you are
Yes.
promised, yes, sir. If you are promised a $300,000 after 3 years from now, what do you think the value of this future value would be lesser now, or it would be higher than 300,000? Obviously, this would be reduced to a lesser amount, right? It could be 295, it could be 290, it could be 280. That would depend upon the interest rate or the discount rate here. Correct? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
No. Now, everyone, please
No
wake
doubts.
up. Okay, everyone, please wake up and write down one point in your notebooks. I'm going to ask you this thing in the first quiz that we are having in the coming lesson. I would definitely, okay, now if I tell you that, let's say somebody has promised me 550 million, right? God bless him or her. He or she would give me 50 million after 4 years from now, right?
Ji, sir.
Okay. And I want to know its present value. I want to know its present value, but I don't know the interest rate, or I have not been told about the interest rate. And I'm given following options here: 40 million, rather make it 42 million, right? 42 million, 52 million, 62 million. What do you think? Can you
42 million,
make,
sir.
yeah, who's this?
42.
That was year, sir. Minus 1 or plus 2?
+1 कर ले भाई अपना, बड़ा दिल पे बोझ है मेरे ये
Thank you,
+1.
sir.
Okay, so well done. Now, without even knowing the interest rate or exact value, if I have to guess, I'm sure, I'm sure that the present value of this 50 million cannot be greater than 50 million, correct? It will
Yes,
be
sir.
a value lesser than 50 million. I'm sure about it, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
this option cannot be availed. Or similarly, this option would be wrong. So even if I don't give you anything, I just tell you that there's a future value promised to you, which is 50 million, even if I don't tell you the number of years. And what could be the possible present value? So obviously you will pick the option which is lesser than 50 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct,
Is
sir.
it clear? Is it clear to everyone? All those who are
Yes, sir.
mute since the start of the class?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sir, all
Yes,
clear,
sir.
sir.
all clear, right. So now I'm just erasing this all, and I'll definitely ask this question, right? So now if I calculate, like if I really go by the calculation, obviously this value would be 225,394. So the amount of $300,000 would be reduced to this 225,394 in 3 years at a discount rate of 10%, right? But this is understood that this amount would be lesser than $300,000 whether I do any calculation or not. Correct? Using interest factor table, this is very simple. Again, we just used that interest factor table a while back. So now what is the summary of this concept? What is time value of money or time value to money? Both means the same. The time value refers to the fact that a dollar in hand today is worth more than a dollar promised at some time in future. This is the basic point that you need to remember. Next, how to calculate future value with simple interest. This was the formula. Any doubts?
No doubts.
No, sir.
Future value with compound interest. If we are doing manual calculations, obviously future value would be equal to this. And if we are doing, using the interest factor table, then future value would be equal to this. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in case of present value, obviously, if you are doing manual calculation, present value is equal to this. And if you are doing or using the present value interest factor, then this is the formula. Now, please, a couple of tips or a couple of, you may say, lesson learned that I would like to share with you. Number one, please be sure which table you are using. Unfortunately, even in the midterm exam, some people, they know everything, but they use the wrong table, right? I provide both the tables, right? I provide both the tables in midterm exam, the future value interest factor table and the present value interest factor table. And because of rush, hurry, or exam pressure, or just, because of a casual attitude, people, they use the wrong table. So please be sure when you are using an interest factor table, please be sure whether you need to use the present value interest factor table or you need to use the future value interest factor table. Is it clear?
Copy that, sir.
Right.
So
Now,
just
okay.
a question, sir.
Sir.
Sorry. Actually, I just wanted to know why you put present value interest factor instead of 1 divided by 1 plus IRS per annum. Actually, I want to ask you again.
Okay. Right.
A bit
Let
clear in my
wait, right, sir. Why I replaced 1 divided by this 1 plus I raised to the power n?
Yes.
This is your question. Why I replaced it with the present value interest factor, correct? This is what you wanted to say, sir?
Yes.
Okay, look, sir. Actually, now today I didn't revise one thing, so somehow I got a chance to revise that, right? And that is our this degree, this course is PCFM, Project Cost and Finance Management, and it has got 2 parts. One is Project Cost Management, and other one is Project Finance Management, right? Acha, within finance management, we will not cover all the finance management, rather, we'll cover or we'll restrict ourselves to only 4 things, and that is the financial methods that are used for project selection. One will be starting today, maybe in maybe 10 minutes from now. Payback period. Second, net present value. Then benefit to cost ratio or profitability index. And then lastly, the IRR. But before we moved on to these concepts, there was a basic concept that was the time value of money that you need to understand, or this concept would be used in these techniques. Correct? And there you would see that within one question or within one calculation, there are number of, present value calculations involved. Number of present, like here, one calculation plus another calculation 1 divided by this, plus another calculation 1 divided by this, and so on. So every time you will have to do this calculation manually, correct? Which would require a lot of time. Like let's say if n is 5. Okay, let me explain you here with a new screen. Let's say I'm promised 4,000 here. I'm promised 3,000 in the third year. I'm promised, let's say, 4,000 here. No, these are only three. Number of years here are 3. And I want to know the present values of all these future values. How would you calculate that, sir? So can you help me in that?
So simple, as you explained earlier, future value हमारे पास आ गई है 1 plus
Divided by,
IRS.
yeah. Yes, sir. So let's say if this is 12%, right? This is 12%, that is interest rate. So in first case, it would be 1 plus what would be I here? 0.12
Yes.
Yes, sir.
and raised to the power what?
1.
1.
1. Okay, plus
See,
next one, 3,000, right? Divided by 1 plus, yeah, so I'm just making it 1.12 raised to the power
Power
2.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 4,000 divided by 1.12 raised to the power 3 here. Correct? So if the number of years are 5, obviously you'll have to do two more calculations here. So every time you would do this, like calculate the square, then you divide it by this. Rather, in fact, it would be 1 divided by this multiplied by 3,000, correct? So to avoid this larger calculations, what did we do? We just said that, okay, whatever the present value is, we'll just look up in this lookup table. And I'll pick for 12%, n is equal to 1, just multiply by this value. Like if I go back, now what I would do, rather than doing those squares and cubes and, raised to the power 4 calculations, here I will pick this. For first year, it would be 0.892. For second year, it would be 0.792. So all those calculations have been done for me already. Is it clear, sir?
Yeah, that's clear. But the question was that why we choose? What is the formula of actually this present value interest factor?
Oh, okay.
So
This is this. Okay, sir. Sorry. This no formula, sir. This is simple calculation. Look, this is future value. Oh, sorry. Present value is equal to future value. I'm sorry for this. और hang ही हो गया मेरे साथ. Okay, future value. This is future value. Plus, oh sorry. These are the issues of online classes, right? Now it's hanged.
सर वैसे अगर हम
Okay.
theoretical part कर लेते तो बेहतर होता काफी लेकिन
Sir, अब कुछ नहीं हो सकता है.
Yes, sir.
There's no theoretical part involved here actually. Right? In this
तो बस ये
subject,
रिक्वेस्ट है कि फिर ज्यादा ये टेक्निकल जो चीजें अगर आप हमें नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में सिखाएं तो
just
ज्यादा
don't worry,
बेहतर
sir.
रहेगा
Sir, just don't worry. There's nothing technical here. These are all basic mathematics, right? But obviously I understand. I'll revise that. I'll revise that after the quiz. Okay. So now, okay, future value is equal to 1 plus this all, right? Now how the table is prepared. This is n, and here let's say I'm starting the table from 10% only. For your ease, I'm starting it with 10%. Sir, if you will put 10%, that is 0.1 here, and 1 plus 0.1. Sir, are you with me now?
Yeah.
Raised to the power 1. So it would be 1 divided by 1.1 raised to the power 1, correct? So can you calculate it using your mobile or calculator? Can you give me the value, please? 1 divided by 1.1?
Sir, 0.90, 90%.
0.90, correct? Okay,
0.1.
and very right. And what about number of years? If number of years are 2, it would be 1.1 raised to the power 2, because n is 2 now.
It's
Can you?
1.81.
So it is? No, it cannot be 1.81. Like 1 divided by 1.81. So what would be the answer? 1 divided by 1.
0.55.
0.826.
Sir, 55%.
0.826, sir. क्या कर रहे हैं आप लोग?
नहीं सर 55% है ये
1 divided by 1.1 square.
0.826.
0.8.
Right. 0.826, right? Now, if I have to check for number of years 3, obviously there would be again another value here. Then I can change this thing to 11% and get all these values. Then 12%, get all these values. So this is how this table is prepared. Is that okay, sir? Sir, did you get it? I'm sorry. There was noise.
Yes. Done.
Okay. Right. So this is how this table or these calculations are done. Like here, our rate was interest rate that we were using was 10% or 12%. It was 10%.
10%.
0.90191, 0.826. So this way you have calculated it. Okay, so now with this, we come to an end of our second lecture. Today is the 4th week, and we haven't covered a lot yet, but this was the basic concept. I guess you can actually practice it in your own time. These are 3 questions. Anyone who's done with these questions, he or she can share the solution in the WhatsApp group. Please share it in the group in which I'm also present there, so that if there's an error, I would point out. But please remember, I will not be looking at or checking the questions or the solutions attempted by scholars individually. Like many of you would send me this is the previous practice as well. Many of the students, they just attempt these questions and then they share the screenshots with me. So if you can check it. So it's very difficult for me to check the solutions of 100 plus or 150 plus students. I hope you understand that, right? So it's better that whosoever has attempted a question, share the solution in the WhatsApp group, and others may tally that solution with their own solution. And if there's a conflict, then you can have a discussion on that in the group. So this would make your learning better, and this would, save a lot of time for of me and others as well. Like if 2 or 3 or 4 people, they have got the same answer, and there's one other individual who is having a different answer. So there are only 2 chances. Number one, these 3 individuals were right, and that third, the 4th person has made a mistake, or that person has is attempted it correctly, and other 3 have made some mistake. So whatever it would be, it would come out as a result of the discussion. So that will improve your learning as well. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have also shared practice
Sir,
material
regarding
with.
question number 1, is it a question of simple interest or a compound interest?
Okay. You can calculate it in both ways, but generally, uh, we use the word compounded, like in case of you know uh, compound interest, right? You can calculate it in both ways. Like it's just for your practice. It's not about, it's not a very complex scenario. You can calculate it in a compound interest. Generally, banks, they use the compound interest, right? Okay, now I have also provided you with some practice questions. If you go to LMS, your LMS there, with every lecture, you'll find multiple practice questions, right? Just download that file and try attempting those questions. However, please remember one thing. As I told you, that this course is not focused at finance management itself. The focus of this project is, or this subject is, to teach you only the project finance management part. That means only those financial methods that we use to check or evaluate a project proposal before project selection is done, right? So our focus is only this much. Now let me explain few things to you. If this is the formula, future value is equal to P into what? 1 plus I raised to the power n. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I can trick this question in many ways. For example, I give you the present value, I give you the interest rate, and I give you the n. And I ask you to calculate future value. Can you do that? This is the simplest thing, right?
Sir, we can do
Yes,
that,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Our focus of our class is only to calculate future and present value. That's it. However, if I don't give you, I don't give, I give you the future value, I give you the present value, but I don't give you interest, and I give you n. Can you calculate interest here? Using some
Yes.
mathematical trick, obviously you
Yes.
can, right? Okay, but this similarly, if I give you the future value, I give you the present value, I give you I, but I don't give you n. In that case, you'll calculate n, obviously, right?
Yes, sir.
But this would involve only the mathematics things, like you will take log of something on both sides, and here you will get log of this, and then you will calculate n. But I don't need you to learn mathematics at this stage. Is it clear? This is done at bachelor's level, and that's enough. You have already gone through it. So here, my focus will not be asking you how to calculate I, how to calculate N. My only focus would be, can you calculate future value and can you calculate a present value? That's it. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Clear.
So restrict yourself to these two basic calculation. Don't go into the calculation of I and N. It does not involve any financial concept. This is just a mathematics that out of 4 terms, one term is missing and how you would find the answer. Correct? So the practice files that I have shared with you, they have been taken from some books and uh, from internet, obviously. And there you would find multiple questions. In few of the questions, you'll be asked to calculate I. In other questions, you'll be asked to calculate N. In other questions, you'll be asked to calculate the principal amount, or in some question, you'll be asked to calculate future value. So please don't get confused with this. This is beyond the scope of this course, right? It's very simple, but you don't need to waste your time in this. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So only attempt the questions in which you are asked to do the future value calculation, and that's it, or the present value calculation, and leave all other questions. Okay, so now with this, we are done with the present value and future value. So now let's have a break of how much time? 25 minutes enough?
So 30 minutes.
So 20-minute break for 30 minutes.
अच्छा ठीक हो
Sir,
गया
make
सर.
it
So
30, sir. Breakfast भी करना.
oh, okay, we'll meet at 9:25. So it would be 30 approximately.
Okay.
Okay, Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
10:25,
Oh,
sir.
the 10:20. Sorry, 10:25. Okay, Allah Hafiz.
Take care, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Allah Hafiz.
I'm not actually leaving this or ending this meeting. Just come back using the same link, right? I'm just putting things on mute, and that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.